it's still not the meal. And as Alfred Korbusik said, the map isn't the territory. So we're going to forget all the old definitions for a moment. And what I'm going to ask you to do is be shocked, okay? Because what I'm going to tell you is that culture is meat, okay? Culture is meat. Now, those of you who haven't left the room on the face of that, let me go a little further. Culture is meat. Maybe I have the wrong cut there. There's another cut of meat. My grandfather used to love brains and scrambled eggs for breakfast. Maybe it sounds like I'm nuts to say this, but then, you know, a walnut looks very much like a brain. So nature is telling us something here. What do I mean by this? It's said very well by a couple of my favorite writers in the intercultural field today. Joseph Scholz teaches in Tokyo, and he's written a book called The Intercultural Mind. And what we're trying to say here is culture is a process of our being, okay? Culture is part of our physiognomy. It's neurons programmed in a certain way to give us certain results. Thus, it's a whole body experience. Our nervous system goes through our entire body, engaging heart, mind, our fears, our aspirations, our survival instincts, and above all, our desire for connection with fellow humans. So I thank Joseph for that. He's one of my heroes. At my age, I have to have heroes who are younger than me. So here's my second hero, and this is Mai Gwyn. And Mai generally, I think she's been lecturing in Australia, but basically she's teaching in the Netherlands, her main job. So she may be back by now, I don't know. She's a very interesting woman because on her sabbatical a few years ago, she walked through 6 Arab countries alone as a woman and wrote a book about it. So a good woman to know and to look into. And what she contributes to this conversation is not only is culture a part of our physical being, it's not just socially learned, but it's geographically influenced by where we are, genetically inherited. This is a scary one because there are things in, especially traumatic experiences in culture, that leave effects on the DNA that we inherit, on the genes that we inherit. And it's neurally enabled. So this is where I want to go with this as we discuss it further. And I'm going to break it out a bit. I'm hearing somebody maybe should put headphones on or mute themselves. I'm hearing noises, but anyway, how does culture work? Based on what Joseph and Mai are telling us, what we have, culture is, it's stories that are embedded and enabled narratives that tell us who we are, what to think, what to feel, what to value, what to pay attention to, how to act, what to create, what to make, and what to do, okay? So this is this shape of our neural system, which is constantly growing and changing, is answering these questions for us. And so we use and adapt and share these cultural elements in how we talk to ourselves and to each other. And the whole purpose is to survive and succeed in an environment and a context which we share. Now, this is very interesting because humanity has gone from small separate tribes to the process of globalization, which means that everybody in their own environment has developed the stories and the perspectives that tell us who we are, what to feel, think, so on and so forth, as I mentioned above, in the context we share. So one of the most important things is to realize that culture, that was once said, was the software of the mind. But Mai Gwynn has pointed out that the software of the mind is context. In other words, we perceive context and we operate in those, which makes a real challenge for us to do all the kinds of things we want to do. A lot of words rhyme in English, and I love this collection here because, you know, culture tells us how we talk, shows us how we walk, tells us what we balk about, tells us what we gawk at, tells us how we flock together, how we sell things, how we hawk things, how we mock other people, the clothes that we wear, the frock, what we stalk, what we seek in life, and what we squawk, we complain about. All of these things are rooted in this cultural storehouse of stories that we carry along with us. And of course, what we want to say is that it's also about the rhythms of synchronicity, how we feel and move together. In communication, we talk about there being words, but that the music and dance are probably 90% of the meaning. So one of the admonitions is be careful how you're talking to yourself because you're listening as well. So let me take this one step further. My very favorite definition of culture comes from a children's book by a guy by the name of Barry Lopez. The book is called Crow and Weasel. And these two characters are mythological Native American imitation characters. But in one point, one of the characters points out, the stories people tell have a way of taking care of them. If stories come to you, care for them and learn to give them away where they are needed. Sometimes a person needs a story more than food to stay alive. That's why we put these stories in each other's memories. This is how people care for themselves. And one thing I might want to note here is that a lot of us have the temptation these days to say, well, I don't really have a culture, I'm cosmopolitan, I'm a world culture person. But the fact of the matter is, we have many bits and pieces and stories of culture. Rather than denying them, owning them and using them and connecting with them is the real challenge. So often when somebody tells me, oh, I don't really have a culture, and you better not talk about cultural characteristics, usually I want to look for the pain in their lives. How have they paid for their identity or their culture that they need to reject it? And this is something you may have to deal with today with all of the issues around racism. I continually find it's very difficult to accept other people's stories, especially if they've been in conflict with our own. And it's easy to say, give up what we have as cultural. I think it's Goethe, the poet who, the German poet who said that we are as many people or persons as the languages we speak. And I'd like to extend that out to say we are as many people as the stories we have learned and embraced and have been given to us. So what am I saying here? I'm saying that the stories that are embedded in our meat are culture, and these are of great value. But however, in our multicultural society, they're also a challenge of how we come together around those stories. So what I'd like you to do now, another 8 minutes in your breakout room, what important story have I heard about who I am? What perceptions, feelings, or behaviors does it generate? A few sentences from everybody in your group. Can we go back to breakout rooms, please?
Hi.
Hello again.
I didn't even have time to write that down, what we have to do.
Well, the PowerPoint. What important stories have we heard about our name? No, about...
Wait, hold on. I will share my screen.
the chat is for everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, can someone start? I'll type the questions.
What important story have I heard about who I am? That's the question.
Mm.
What important story have I heard about, in quotations, who I am? What perceptions, feelings, behaviors does it generate?
Well, in my case, I guess the most important story was very patriotic, that I'm from Poland, how Poland suffered during the wars and the history, and what means that I should stay in Poland, stay very close to Polish people, and protect the culture. So that was very much the story I grew up with, which it has lots of impact in my own life. I still feel very much of proud that I am from Poland, and when I meet someone, because I actually left like 15 years ago. So whenever I meet Polish people, it's like also a big connection between us. And yeah.
How did your family react when you decided to move to France?
Oh, it was like I was the first person who actually traveled so far and didn't come back since then. So yeah, it was very my mother suffered a lot, of course.
Yeah.
But then it was quite okay. It's like, wow, going somewhere else and seeing what was like a big thing, and everyone would love to do it the same. Actually, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's about me.
Oh man, that is actually, can you hear me? Yeah,
Yeah.
that is actually some seriously limiting story to some people, I can imagine.
Yes, it is. But on one side, it gives me a lot of identity, who I am. Traveling all around the world, I still have some roots, and I know what to stick to. It's not like I'm saying that Poland is the best country ever, and because I know better than that. But then if I, for example, talk with French people, I live now in France, as you know, so they also are very, very patriotic. So when I'm there and I say like, okay, I'm from Poland and I'm proud about it, they actually respect me. We have better connection because they tell me about France, I tell them about Poland. So still is with all respect for the other cultures, but is limiting. But I would say this also gives lot of perspective. You just know who you are, and from that you go. You learn things. You just get out of your character the things you don't like. You get other things from other people, but still knowing who you are and actually you have control of your life.
That is
really
Mm.
But do you think that from the culture that you come from, that makes you who you are?
It's not in certain sense. Oh, hello.
Oh, welcome.
been joined.
We couldn't see the questions on the screen or didn't know what to do, so Fran put us here.
Okay, can you see the chat?
They can see my screen.
Oh yeah, sure.
There was a problem with the chat, so
the screen I can see.
Yeah.
all right.
Like I was a bit confused about like the story that I heard. Like, someone told to me about myself?
Yeah, I guess that's the story that you had about yourself, because actually